Alright, only a smattering of you guys. Does anyone know what vernacular means? Anybody? No? Well, good, because we're going to learn about it today. Vernacular is a dialect in a story. It can indicate either the time period or the region that it's set in. Like if you're reading a South, set in the South, you'd have a Southern accent or something like that, which is what you see a lot in Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. It's a realistic insight to how someone would actually talk. So, depending on where you live, you usually have different words. You know how in one area it's soda, in one area it's pop. You know how we kind of bicker about what word is to use? Well, that's kind of what you do with vernacular. If you lived in an area where someone said soda, that would be how they would talk in the story, and they would say soda. So, it really helps you to understand who is speaking in the story, and it has some identity traits of that person. This also can be stereotypical, that in older works you see this a lot, especially with African American slaves. They will use a language because they are uneducated and they haven't been to school and they haven't learned how to properly speak. It was a shocking idea when they first used vernacular. Twain was a very comedic man, and he wanted to just shock people, and he wanted to use things to surprise people and make things new. So most language before Twain's time was written in upper-class language. It was fancy parties, fancy people, generally a white audience. This is something that Mark Twain wrote in the beginning of Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, just to give you an idea of how he felt about what he was doing. So it says, explanatory. In this book, a number of dialects are used, to wit, the Missouri Negro dialect, the extremist form of the backwoods southwestern dialect, the ordinary Pike County dialect, which was an area in the South, and 4 modified varieties of this last. The shadings have not been done in a haphazard fashion or by guesswork, but painstakingly and with the trustworthy guidance of support of each personal familiarity with these several forms of speech. He continues on to say, I make this explanation for the reason that without it, many readers would suppose that all these characters were trying to talk alike and not succeeding. And he cited the author there. Basically, what he is saying is he did a lot of research, and he sat and he really listened to how people really talk. He actually did raft down the Mississippi, and just to give an idea and give a real insight to how it would be for Huck and the other main character of this story, which was a runaway slave named Jim, he wanted to give it a realistic insight, and he also took into account to what people said and how they actually spoke. And you can see it. We're going to look at an example. This is the very first paragraph where Huckleberry Finn introduces this story. So he says, you don't know about me without you have read a book by the name of The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. Sorry, that's a little typo there. But that ain't no matter. That book was made by Mr. Mark Twain, and he told the truth. Mainly he told the truth. That is nothing. I never seen anybody but lied, one time or another. Without it was Aunt Polly, or the widow, or maybe Mary. Aunt Polly, Tom's Aunt Polly, she is, and Mary and the widow Douglas is all about told in that book, which is mostly a true book, with some stretchers, as I said before. So you don't really have, this is a child that is speaking to you. He grew up in a bad home life, and he did not go to school, which you can really see in his uses of ain't and I never seen anybody. Basically what he's saying here is that Mark Twain, it's kind of one of those moments where he knows that he's in a book. So he knows who Mark Twain is. He knows that Mark Twain is telling this story. So what he was saying about it was that Mark Twain kind of made it a little bit interesting, but he mostly told what was really happening in the story. So what you can see here is, like we said, uneducated. And he's a child, so he kind of doesn't take what they're saying into stock. And that's what he says about a lot in this story. So, now that we're done with that, so what I want you to do tonight is finish reading chapter 1 of Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. I'm going to pass out this book to you right before we go for class. And I want you to kind of look and see who is speaking. And I want you to just write it down. It can be bullet points. It doesn't have to be a formal paper. I want you to tell who is in the story in the first chapter and give a sentence of their speech that represents their vernacular and tell how their personality traits and who you think this character is. Alright? So, let's see. It's 1 o'clock. You guys need to go to lunch, so let's wrap this up. Thank you very much.